The silence in the air is heavy. It is a silence that speaks volumes, a silence that tells a story of its own. It is the silence of fear, fear that permeates every corner, every shadow, and every heartbeat of this ancient land. This is Sicily, an island paradise haunted by a dark secret, the Mafia, a place where beauty and terror coexist, where the sun-drenched landscapes hide the shadows of a sinister underworld. Their grip is invisible, yet it strangles the lifeblood of this beautiful land. The Mafia's influence is like a ghost, unseen but ever-present, suffocating the spirit of Sicily. They are the unseen force behind businesses, politicians, and even whispers in the night. The Mafia. Their reach extends into the highest echelons of power, manipulating and controlling from the shadows. The very word evokes images of violence, omerta, and a power that seems to operate outside the law. It conjures up a world where loyalty is bought with blood and silence is the currency of survival. They are a secret society, bound by blood and fear. A brotherhood that thrives on loyalty and ruthlessness, where betrayal is met with swift and brutal retribution. Their tentacles reach into every aspect of Sicilian life, from the bustling markets to the quiet family dinners. Their presence is felt, their influence undeniable. This is the story of Cosa Nostra, our thing, the Sicilian Mafia, a tale that spans generations, weaving through the fabric of Sicilian history and culture. It is a story of power, corruption, and the struggle for the soul of Sicily. A struggle that continues to this day, as the island grapples with the legacy of its dark past and the hope for a brighter future. To truly understand the origins and rise of the Mafia, one must delve deep into the history of 19th century Sicily. This was a time when the island was not just a picturesque landscape, but a land fraught with complexities and challenges. The island was in turmoil, a place where unrest was the norm rather than the exception. The people of Sicily faced constant upheaval, their lives marked by instability and uncertainty. For centuries, Sicily had been under the rule of various foreign powers, each leaving its mark on the land and its people. This constant change of rulers left the island fragmented, with its people yearning for a sense of stability and continuity that seemed perpetually out of reach. Into this void of power and stability stepped men who understood the dynamics of influence and control, the uomini rispettati, or men of respect. These individuals were not just figures of authority, but were seen as pillars of their communities. Often, these men were landowners, individuals who held significant sway over their localities. They commanded loyalty from those around them and were able to dispense a form of justice in a society where official law enforcement was either absent or ineffective. From these roots, a complex network of protection rackets began to grow. These early forms of the Mafia were not just about crime, they were about providing a semblance of order in a chaotic world. The Mafia offered a form of security in a land where the official law was weak and trust was a rare commodity. They filled a gap that the state could not, becoming an alternative source of authority and protection. However, this protection came at a significant price. It required absolute silence and unwavering obedience from those who sought it. The Mafia's control was not just physical but psychological, embedding itself deeply into the fabric of Sicilian society. Central to the Mafia's power is omerta, a code of silence that binds its members and intimidates its victims. To speak out against the Mafia is to invite swift and brutal retribution. This code of silence is deeply ingrained in Sicilian culture. It is a product of centuries of foreign rule, poverty, and mistrust of authority. In the face of oppression, silence can feel like the only protection. This culture of silence allowed the Mafia to flourish. It protected their secrets, shielded them from the law, and allowed them to operate with impunity. The post-war years saw the Mafia infiltrate Sicily's booming construction industry. This brought immense wealth, but also fierce internal rivalries. From this chaos emerged figures like Salvatore Riina, known as Toto Shorty, and Bernardo Provenzano, nicknamed the Tractor for his ruthlessness. Riina, a ruthless leader, declared war on the state, ordering the assassinations of judges, politicians, and law enforcement officials. His reign of terror plunged Sicily into its darkest period. Provenzano, more strategic and elusive, took over after Riina's arrest in 1993. He favored a lower profile, focusing on consolidating power and rebuilding the Mafia's financial empire. The Italian state was not passive in the face of mafia violence. Determined to combat the pervasive influence of organized crime, the government took decisive action. In 1986, hundreds of mafiosi were put on trial in Palermo in what became known as the Maxi Trial. This unprecedented legal proceeding aimed to dismantle the mafia's stronghold on Italian society. Led by courageous judges like Giovanni Falcone and Paolo Borsellino, the trial was a watershed moment. These judges, known for their unwavering dedication and bravery, became symbols of the fight against organized crime. For the first time, the existence of Cosa Nostra was officially recognized and its hierarchical structure exposed. The trial revealed the intricate web of connections and the brutal methods employed by the mafia to maintain control. The trial resulted in numerous convictions, dealing a significant blow to the mafia's power. Over 300 defendants were found guilty, and many received lengthy prison sentences, marking a historic victory for justice. However, the mafia's response was swift and brutal. Determined to reassert their dominance, they launched a campaign of terror, targeting those who dared to challenge their authority. Judges Falcone and Borsellino, along with their escorts, were assassinated in separate bombings in 1992. These tragic events underscored the high stakes of the battle against organized crime and the personal risks faced by those on the front lines. These attacks sent shockwaves through Italy and galvanized public opinion against the mafia. The public outcry and the subsequent mobilization of civil society marked a turning point, leading to increased efforts to eradicate the mafia's influence and honor the legacy of those who sacrificed their lives for justice. The assassinations of Falcone and Borsellino were acts of desperation, a last-ditch attempt to intimidate the state and protect the mafia's interests. But they backfired spectacularly. The public outcry was immense. People took to the streets in protest, demanding justice and an end to the mafia's reign of terror. The Italian government, under intense pressure, launched a massive crackdown on Cosa Nostra. New laws were introduced, targeting mafia finances and strengthening witness protection programs. Thousands of mafiosi were arrested, their assets seized. Despite these successes, the fight against the mafia is far from over. Like a hydra, when one head is cut off, another emerges. The mafia has shown a remarkable ability to adapt and evolve. While weakened, Cosa Nostra continues to operate, particularly in its traditional strongholds in western Sicily. They have infiltrated new sectors of the economy, such as drug trafficking and online gambling, and are increasingly collaborating with other criminal organizations around the world. The Italian state's efforts to combat the mafia have been met with mixed success. While the large-scale violence and intimidation of the Riina years has subsided, the mafia has proven adept at exploiting loopholes in the legal system and corrupting officials. The fight against the mafia is a complex one. It requires not only robust law enforcement, but also social and economic reforms that address the underlying conditions that allow organized crime to flourish. Today, the mafia's presence is less overt, but no less insidious. They operate in the shadows, using extortion and intimidation to control businesses, manipulate public contracts, and influence local politics. Their influence is felt in construction projects, waste disposal, and even renewable energy. They are masters of exploiting opportunities for profit, legal or otherwise. The Sicilian Mafia is no longer confined to its island home. Globalization, increased mobility, and the internet have allowed Cosa Nostra to extend its reach across continents. They have established links with criminal networks in North and South America, Europe, and Australia, engaging in drug trafficking, money laundering, and other illicit activities. The mafia's legacy is a dark stain on Sicily's history. They have tarnished its reputation, stifled its economy, and robbed generations of Sicilians of their future. However, it is important to remember that the mafia does not represent all of Sicily. There are countless Sicilians who have bravely resisted organized crime, often at great personal risk. The fight against the mafia is a long and difficult one. It requires constant vigilance, unwavering commitment, and a willingness to challenge the culture of silence that has allowed organized crime to thrive for so long. The future of Sicily depends on the courage of its people to stand up to the mafia and build a more just and equitable society. The fight continues.